It's me, TMB, and I'm here because my problems are everyone's problems. Just you wait and see. Hello, friends and enemies. Welcome to TMB Problems. I'm TMB, and we're here because if you are alive in 2024, my problems are also very much your problems, especially this episode's topic, because I think it becomes pretty clear that this is a massive subject that has tentacles in so many different areas of our life. So, this is merely the beginning and will be the first of many episodes on sex, dating, and relationships. This week's specific problem, well, it's the fact that I'm probably going to die alone. And so are you, if you're single, I mean. It's dating apps, all right? Dating apps are the problem. Friends, as a woman who has been off the dating scene for about a decade, I'm here to tell you that the weather girls are wrong. It is not, in fact, raining men. The rain has stopped. There is zero rain, okay? There's like not even a freaking single cloud in the sky. We're in a drought and there's no end in sight. This is a barren desert, all right? The heat is becoming unbearable and there are like glittering images or mirages of secure relationships with emotionally available, financially stable, trustworthy, and age-appropriate men tricking women everywhere into the hot sands of the dating app world, where they promptly then collapse of thirst and wither away like little raisins in the sun, along with their unfertilized eggs and premenopausal estrogen levels. It is the biggest, most dangerous lack of male rain that anyone has ever seen, and it is a really big problem, and we're all gonna die if we don't fix this. This is. So here we go. Are you ready for some fish metaphors? Because I'm feeling aquatic for this one. Let's zoom out first, okay? Give this subject some context. The human attention span is now shorter than that of a goldfish. That is correct. All the research indicates that the average human attention span has decreased from about 12 seconds in the year 2000 to around 8 seconds in the mid 2010s. So the goldfish has an attention span of 9 seconds, which is now probably a full second more than you. We know scientifically that the design of the internet, digital devices, and social media have played significant roles in this change, right? It's a proven fact that social media and technology are bad for us and have destroyed our ability to like mentally stick with something. Don't even get me started on the latest research showing that the human IQ has actually dropped to its lowest level since we started measuring in like 1979. Okay, so now let's zoom back in a bit and apply this information to dating in the modern age. If social media has shortened our attention span to lower than that of like the dumb fish I used to bring home at like 2 a.m. in stolen beer glasses after winning the weekly Thursday night goldfish races at my local bar, the same dumb fish that was most likely deceased and floating on the surface the next morning, then we are in some deep, deep trouble. Things are not looking super good. I mean, have you had a conversation with most of Gen Z? Like a goldfish comparison might be complimentary at this point. Well, so since I was unexpectedly thrust upon the dating scene this year, let me tell you, it is so much worse than you can even imagine. The memes and the TikToks you see, they are not exaggerating in any way, shape, or form, okay? Like, if anything, they're actually minimizing the actual atrocity that is modern dating. There's no exact word I think I can use to truly define the tragedy of what feels like the death of courtship and romance. So instead, I will boil it down to what it lacks fundamentally, and that is character and courage. C.S. Lewis always told us that courage is every virtue at its testing point. And I don't think dating is an exception to this rule. But what do I mean by that? So glad you asked. Men no longer have to be courageous in looking for a mate or display other virtues like, I don't know, prudence, self-control, goodness. There's nothing on the line. In fact, there is no line. It's just like the sea of endless option filled to the brim with ladyfish of every variety, species, and color. And these other ladyfish out there, guys, like they're tricky. They use fillers and Botox, and I don't know what they're doing to get their bucks to look like that, but it is not naturally occurring. I mean, that much I can tell you. The things I have seen in the women's locker room defy gravity. Anyway, these men in the dating pool, They don't even have to be like a proverbially skilled fisherman on these dating apps because modern dating is like an ocean teeming with huge schools of shiny, dumb, younger than me fish. And all these other women ladyfish have been taught not to run away from the fisherman's hook or wait for bait that might be worth their while, but just to simply jump in the fisherman's boat. No bait necessary. Just bypass the net. Who needs a net? What is this, 2009? I mean, these modern women are like those flying fish you see in videos on YouTube that just like jump up and land in people's boats. The guy in this scenario doesn't even have to do like a freaking thing. All he has to do is be in a boat and have a pulse. Bam, fish at his feet, fish all over him. He's covered in fish. It's gross. It's naked woman after naked woman in your bed any given night of the week. You don't even have to take her to dinner first. I mean, by the way, really good job, ladies. Like, really super good job. You screwed us all by screwing every guy you meet without commitment of any kind. So thank you for that. Thank you for being so easily brainwashed by feminism and sexual liberation and completely retraining the entire male sex to not act like men at all, to go against their better natures and live in vice instead of virtue. My favorite part, personally, is that you women that I'm talking about, you are the ones going on social media and making videos complaining about how men treat you, like lambasting them for those stupid red flags. If I see one more red flag video, I'm gonna lose it, all right? Like, and the ghosting, you complain about how a guy ghosted you after you just had sex with them because you met him that night or like an hour ago. I mean, he already ate your cheap fish and chips. He thinks he might prefer Norwegian salmon or perhaps an Atlantic cod, Hawaiian butterfish, TBD. Then there's the whole bit about like wanting the princess treatment, right? Like you are livid and upset because you aren't getting the princess treatment. You aren't having your queen energy respected. Sweetheart, you are no princess. You are a hoe. Just a hoe who wants nice things. Here's a piece of advice for you girls. Real queens are not easily accessible. They don't just grant audience with anybody, let alone show someone they barely know their crown jewels. This is why I keep mine under lock and key and also like, password protected. No, queens respect themselves. They are regal. They exhibit prudence. Another classical virtue that applies here. They have standards, okay? And a guy being over 6 feet tall is not the kind of standard that I'm talking about. I mean, ladies, you have become dumb. It's like an entire generation of dumb, slutty women. And like, were you all just conditioned by shows like Friends or Sex in the City? Did you all want to be Samantha? I think that's a slutty one. I don't know. I've never actually watched those shows. But did you think that was like real life or something to aspire to? Just sleeping your way through metropolitan cities for most of your 20s and 30s, cocktail in hand, landing in situationships that we both know are going nowhere? Do you feel in control as you are the ones to make the decision of swiping on a guy on Bumble and making the first move? Is that empowering to you, being masculine? Taking on the roles of what's essentially like a virtueless man, because men, that's what you become, a guy without character, like the one in the movie who you do not want the girl to end up with, lacking the integrity of men of ages past who are known as gentlemen. Dr. Jordan Peterson, I adore him personally and respect him tremendously professionally. He calls those who live in short-term relationship, one-night stand world psychopaths, narcissists, Machiavellian, and sadist. And he calls them this because it's definitional. The definition of a psychopath is someone who uses other people for short-term gratification. And when people hear this, like, what? No, I just like sex. I don't want anything serious. You know what Dr. Peterson says? He reminds us that if you practice something long enough, you become it. Now, ladies, your turn. I'm going to tell you a secret, okay? This might be a little mean, but we both know I don't care. Here are 4 important words that it seems your mothers forgot to tell you. Men don't marry whores. Can you handle it? Girls, if you're actively participating in this dating app hookup culture, congratulations. You are a part of the problem. You are ruining it for all of us nicer, more wholesome ladyfish who will not be voluntarily or freely jumping into anyone's proverbial boat anytime soon. I mean, if a guy wants my sushi, he's going to have to Moby Dick this white whale, okay? I'm talking shark fights. I want blood in the water. I want like appendages lost and ships sunk in the pursuit of moi. That's romance, okay? That's how you cherish something. It's got to hurt a little bit. There needs to be some effort. some sacrifice. It should be a challenge to attain. It should be a little scary. And I can't believe I said my sushi, and I can't edit this out because I do these in one take. So that's fun. I have issues. Okay. With the invention of social media and dating apps came the downfall of true dating, right? The natural instinct of men, the concept of having to hunt and sacrifice for something like the attention or affection of a good woman, it's completely lost on pretty much anyone under 45. I mean, there's this large and growing demographic of men in their late 30s and 40s who don't want anything serious because they have that endless supply of young 20 and 30 somethings who are just willing to give them either meaningless casual sex or the equivalent of like the girlfriend experience, but without the burdensome accountability and responsibilities that come with real commitment or marriage. I mean, girls, if he isn't introducing you to his best friends or family members, he's not that into you. I don't care how good the sex is. With the invention of birth control and the sexual revolution came this like really nonsensical idea, and unfortunately incredibly popular idea, that true freedom was found in sexual liberation. And if women could essentially be like men of lesser character and have all the sex they wanted with as many possible partners as possible without the inconvenience of things like pregnancy or disease, then they'd be truly free and equal. Yay, feminism. This is a lie. It might be the biggest lie of the postmodern world, and I'll tell you why. It is the sandy and seeking foundation upon which a majority of our society's current ills can be traced back to. Upon this incredibly and possibly even intentionally miscalculated conclusion was built not just a house of cards, but in sense, a house of death and destruction, one that just doesn't have consequences for us as individuals, but collectively as a society. There are very real economic consequences in terms of like population decline because of this virtueless ideology. What was once meant ultimately for procreation is reduced to momentary pleasure, something traditionally with the power to literally create new life and strengthen bonds of partnership or marriage is devolved into cold, transactional, sterilized, intentional infertility. Life without consequences, baby. You see, we don't do hard things anymore. We had hard. We wrote the love letters. We bought the flowers. We showed up at the front door. We made the dinner reservations and had the deep conversations because dating is traditionally work. It requires things of you. No mas. We'd much rather stay at home in our sweatpants, like half watching television, swiping our lives away than, actually interact with another human being in a way that forces us to put in any real effort or growth or stretch us beyond our limits. Remember expanding our horizons? Well, now it's more like expanding our choices, and they can all be delivered directly to your door. It's just like ordering Postmates or DoorDash, but instead of ordering food, you are ordering people. Real, live human people with feelings and emotions and thoughts and bodies that cannot in reality be disconnected or separated from each other. So before we get more philosophical, or dare I say, theological, let's look at dating apps from a logical, scientific, and legal perspective. The psychology and science first. There was a Stanford professor of clinical psychiatry whose name I legit cannot pronounce, who says we are basically getting dopamine hit every time we swipe. More research has been done on things like Instagram, right? Where we know young kids are getting addicted to posting and wrap up their entire self-worth and how many likes or followers they have or who's watched their stories, because it leads to these dopamine hits, which leads to the reverse. They get sad or depressed if they don't get these things. We've rewired our brains to receive our happy chemicals from things and at levels that are unnatural. It's this mass rewiring of our brains. Why? How? Well, friends, don't forget that dating apps are companies. They are businesses trying to make money. And the way they make money is by having as many people as possible stay on the apps. They aren't some altruistic 501c3 out to do God's work. And big caveat, this is not to say they do not always work. In fact, I just had dinner recently with a friend who's getting married to someone she met on Hinge. So I'm not trying to throw the baby out with the bathwater here. But I will say that I find those to be rare exceptions. And I think that what dating apps have done to our culture, our brains, the idea of romance or sexuality is abominable. And unless we do something soon to address this problem, irreversible. Dating apps are not neutrally designed. Swiping is more fun than tapping, right? So the whole process becomes like a game. Dating apps use tactics to keep users coming back, like push notifications and random rewards that get our brains excited because we can't predict when we'll get a match. This is human Candy Crush. People are going on these dating apps and getting dopamine hits through superficial connections and small talk because someone thought you were cute in your picture or they liked your one-liner joke from The Office. By the way, if I had a nickel, I would be so rich. After all, it feels good when someone likes you, when they think you're attractive or funny or interesting. Now, because you can only talk about what you know, yours truly went on dating apps this summer. One of my closest girlfriends and biggest podcast supporters, Sarah, signed me up as like sort of a joke when I was taking a shower back in June. I was like sad about the lack of romance in my life. Despite my loathing of the concept, I decided to stay on them for a few weeks as an experiment. It wasn't all bad. I'm just incredibly busy working in politics during a presidential election season, so I have no life. But I talked to some really nice guys with some potential. I mean, I don't kiss and tell digitally or otherwise, unless you're one of my best friends, then like everything. The story these poor women have had to hear from me this summer, the screenshots. I actually feel kind of badly for their husbands, but not bad enough to stop. Anyway, for the one or two decent men out there, you really have to wade through some like mucky, polluted waters, all right? To give you an idea of how many proverbial frogs you have to kiss to find a real man with any potential who just might be in like the court of being your prince. In the first 5 days my profile was live on Bumble and Hinge, I had almost 7,000 likes on each app. What am I supposed to do with that number? Every time I logged in, it would tell me I had 20 new roses or 600 new likes or 50 new super swipes or whatever. And I'm not saying this in any kind of egotistical way because most women I know and have now discussed this subject with are in the exact same boat. It is overwhelming, to say the least. I mean, see, dating apps treat men and women very differently. This is not an egalitarian game we are playing. In the same time frame that I received thousands of likes, the average man's profile gets approximately anywhere from like 10 to 50, maybe 100 if there's some big fish, or if they're holding one and they're stereotypical, I'm on a boat and athletic and can catch and kill an animal pics. CNN wrote a piece on how dating apps have commodified dating. Basically, you are judging a human being based entirely on a set of data points that have been defined for you and by you, and limit your knowledge or ability to truly judge a potential partner's, potential. In the same way that many of us, sit in bed or on the couch on Instagram, like swiping and liking on dating apps, they're providing those same dopamine hits we talked about. Pair that chemical addiction with the previously mentioned decreasing human attention span and the overabundance of willing casual sex partners, and we are in for some serious issues in the social construct of humanity. We no longer understand limited options, quality over quantity, the value of boredom, the need to seek out what we desire, not merely expect it to just land in our laps, or be so lazy or desperate or lonely that we settle for so much less than what we deserve or want, especially long term. One Huffington Post article talked to users of dating apps, and they said that being on the apps feels like a part-time job. You'll spend an entire evening messaging someone because you're bored at home with no, real intention of meeting up or pursuing them. Or as I have personally experienced, you'll sit there having some lovely conversation with someone you actually think has real potential for hours, only to wake up to like being unmatched by them and ghosted for all of eternity without even knowing or understanding why. I mean, it's incredibly confusing. You aren't just ghosted, but you are rejected without information. And that breeds insecurity in a brand new way. Thoughts come to your mind like, did I talk too much? Probably. Do they not like me because I'm over 30? Maybe. Is it because I'm divorced? Who knows? Too blonde? No way. Too conservative? Meh, not conservative enough? Give me a break. But before they had to tell you to your face why they didn't like you, right? Because you were typically dating like within your social circle or geographical area. There was a sense of respect for your time and energy and decorum. It wasn't just like some cowardly, I'm going to block you online and live some anonymous life with zero repercussions. This digital dating universe allows people to operate without any character. Dating apps make you feel like you're on a constant job interview, but one where you had to actively lower your expectations because most people just straight up lie on their profiles. Women Photoshop the crap out of their photos. Men lie about being over 6 feet tall or use some photos from like 15 years ago to hide the bald spot. I mean, not to mention you could put the fact that you're a conservative Christian woman who wants kids and monogamy, but like half the guys who will like you are child-hating atheist liberals who only want to hook up and didn't even bother reading your profile, but just thought you were hot. It's incredibly shallow and superficial for the most part. And then if you try to put up certain parameters, you suddenly don't have any decent matches at all. Most men automatically screen out women over the age of 34. That would automatically screen me out for most of you guys out there. And I have 30 to 4 triple Ds, the high IQ, and the ovarian egg count of a woman in her 20s. So you automatically miss a lot of quality people based on arbitrary search parameters. I was also shocked at the massive anxiety I experienced, like not just from the push notifications, but from the men themselves. I mean, I love men, pro men, but when did the general male population become so needy and feminine? And why do they need constant and instant replies and interactions? The desire for me to immediately respond to messages or call them or give them my information and the abrupt and rude treatment I received if I didn't was bizarre and frankly absurd. I mean, they waste no time. Everything's like on this moving conveyor belt and you're either on or off. There's no in between. I mean, I would get messages like, saw you posted on your Instagram stories, but you haven't replied to my message from 28 minutes ago. Or why haven't you posted the pictures of the roses I sent you yet? Guys, for as much as I post, and I know I post a lot, believe it or not, I keep most of my personal life private. I share what I'm willing to share. I don't let it all hang out. I mean, I could have a boyfriend right now and most of you would not know it. Do I? Don't I? Who's to say? My mother. My mother will say. So if there's anything you want to know, just ask her. So the opposite side of the hookup culture problem that the dating apps provide is the overly intense like efficiency problem, to the point where it's basically, hello, do you think I'm cute? If so, do you want to marry me tomorrow and have babies next week? Please check yes or no. There's no nuance. A lot of these profiles read like these old newspaper ads that farmers in rural towns would put out like in the late 1800s, early 1900s. It's like for a mail order bride, right? And they like listed their job, how much property they had, basic wants and requirements. It was perfunctory. It was not about love. It was about economical. They needed a wife to help them for free and bear children in exchange for property and protection. Again, this new modern world is no longer about dating or romance. This is a job interview. And it's a job interview that never ends. You just keep interviewing for all eternity because even if you offer someone the job, they usually don't show up for work the next day. Trust me. Some guys who seemed great and asked me out, like literally just never followed through and actually did it. And then I forgot they existed. I bet they forgot I existed too. Just kidding. We both know I'm unforgettable. But with genuine by chance romance being replaced with these cheesy, inorganic like prompts and opening lines, it reinforces that this is all about efficiency. Many of the men even write that on their profiles. They say some version of, I'm here to meet the one. Be the reason for me to delete this app. You know, like we need to meet ASAP and assess our chemistry. I mean, at least though, I can admit that's better than the dozens of men who say like really gross things like, insert favorite food here is my second favorite thing to eat in bed. That's disgusting, and now I'm just wondering where your mouth hasn't been. Or they'd say their hitting talent is getting their hoodie back from you, which, to be fair, I don't actually understand that one, so I'm assuming it's sexual, but if you know, please send me this message. This is just a lot of unnatural pressure all the way around. You're on a human shopping spree, and everyone is on sale. You are coming to this people store with your very own shopping list of things you want in a partner. And if that person doesn't tick every box, you pull an Ariana Grande and say, thank you, next. Because after all, this is a supersized Walmart store and who knows what awaits you on the next aisle. Why settle for less than perfect when you can just keep swiping? One small swipe for a man is one giant dumpster fire for all of mankind. The ridiculous synthetic nature of this truly is wild. I mean, especially considering friends, you don't know what you want. I mean, sure, you might think you do. You might have some cute little list in your notes app that you occasionally add or subtract to. There might be some foundational non-negotiables like sharing your faith or wanting kids or making sure you aren't some transgender dude in women's clothing. Those are good non-negotiables. Those are valid and make sense, but you really don't know what you want. I've regularly seen men who say they won't date someone who's voted for a certain politician, or if they got the vaccine, or if they're not into Disney, or they don't enjoy hiking. I mean, one guy said he wouldn't date someone who doesn't like dirty martinis. But to be fair, I kind of agree with that one. This is brutal. You are getting constantly beat up and trying to fit and squeeze into these hyper specific shapes that men and women are looking for online. You feel pressure from every direction: pressure from the apps, pressure from the people, pressure from society, pressure to use your body as some sort of like transactional ploy or bait in attempting to catch the mate. This is a problem. This is all so incredibly unnatural. I mean, we've lost the natural pace and rhythm of the mating dance. Romance is a waltz, not a rap song. There was an art to courtship. There was a point, do's and don'ts. You got to know someone slowly. You didn't just meet a stranger for a drink because they thought they looked like relatively cute in their photo and then promptly proceed to take all of your clothes off and do whatever in bed together like it's no big deal. And then after you've both been duly satisfied and received the cheap dopamine hit your bodies provided each other with, congratulations, you have just become another commodity. And you did it to yourself. So well done yet again. Now you are the problem. I mean, it wasn't that long ago that most people actually cared about someone's reputation or character, and that dictated whether you wanted to even be seen like in public with them, let alone as a romantic prospect. But none of that matters anymore. And that goes against the natural order of things. You want me to actually like you? Consider going out with you? Well, don't try to shove your tongue down my throat within minutes of meeting me or text me some wildly inappropriate and unsolicited photo at 11 p.m. on a Tuesday when I met you Monday morning. Don't tell me what you want to do to my body before you know who I am or care about my well-being. I mean, wow, you want to put what where, but you don't know my last name? Favorite color, middle name? What state I'm from? Just any basic biographical data. But yes, let's watch you do things in a video I didn't ask for to some fantasy idea you have on me based on my Instagram feed. That sounds healthy. Again, this is basically interactive porn. I mean, no wonder we have artificial intelligence completely replacing girlfriends or sexual encounters for a lot of men, especially in Asian countries. Japan is in real trouble, guys. Those sex robots, I mean, AI is on call 24/7 and it can be whatever or whoever you want and it never says no, unless you want it to. It is selfish, one-sided, and without virtue. It is pointless and it is destroying us. On another scientific note, pheromones are real. When you're physically out and about, you are attracted to people like on a chemical level. There's this unseen, unmeasurable physical reaction happening in real time. From what research tells us, we are attracted to pheromones of specific individuals over others because our body chemistries are more aligned or compatible for reproduction. In layman's terms, just from smell, I instinctively know whether my eggs want your sperm, not the sperm of the guy sitting next to you or your best friend, but my body wants you specifically, and vice versa. Our bodies know what would genetically make the best possible baby or have the best sex. So call me crazy, but if couples are being unnaturally forced together based on criteria and data points and not even on like this pheromonal level, could this be a component of the fertility crisis we are currently having in Western civilizations? We're matching with people we're not chemically or physically best compatible with to make babies. There's a reason why you might have some insane physical or sexual connection with someone you'd never think of if they were just like another face on the dating app. I mean, this is something I've thought a lot about and will continue to pontificate on as we discuss fertility at some point. Anyway, there was this viral 2015 Vanity Fair article by writer Nancy Jo Sales called Tinder and the Dawn of the Dating Apocalypse. And this was one of the very first big articles to push back against the idea that dating apps were like net positives and helpful to society. She was interviewing men and women using these apps, and they said terrifying things. And this was like 9 years ago when everything was just starting. The young men she interviewed said that there's always someone better to be found. And given the choice between like talking to a few girls in real life at a bar and picking the best one, or swiping a few hundred a day, setting up multiple dates a week, and just having sex with all of them, they pick the latter because, like, why not, right? I mean, we're just animals. Let's give in to our basic instincts. But there's the fallacy. See, as my junior high science teacher, Mr. C, always taught us, I am not an animal, and neither are you. You have a mind and a conscience that are not at the whims of your hormones or genitalia. You have what's called self-control. We're at the top of the food chain, not the bottom. And the media and propaganda that have spent the last few decades telling us otherwise and insisting we should just give in to our urges and desires, they are out to make money off of you. By commodifying yourself, you do the work for them. You're using dating apps, sure, but you're also buying copious amounts of dates, drinks and dinners, getting your privates waxed, using condoms, birth control, Viagra, sex toys, getting abortions when the birth control and condoms fail you, and then, paying for therapy to deal with all the emotional issues you claim you won't have from all those things. But this is big business. We're talking billions and billions of dollars. In more recent interviews, our writer friend Nancy Joe said she calls the dating app world big dating because she said it's become the same as big pharma. In the sense that big pharma wants you sick and not actually healthier because they can sell you more medicines and more treatments to cure ailment after ailment instead of actually making you healthy and curing you of whatever you're suffering from. Big dating does the same thing. Dating now happens 24/7. It's unending. It's on demand. It's Amazon Prime. You are the commodity. Your body is a commodity. Tinder invented the swipe, right? Like they were the inception of choosing a person based off of a picture and a few description points, like a kitchen appliance. Like online shopping, there's no chance of rejection with dating apps. No one's putting themselves out there. There's no real risk. You can be a complete coward, hiding behind your screen and still match with someone desperate enough to have sex with you any night of the week. Let's use the 1 to 10 attractiveness scale. You can be a guy who's like a solid 3.7, but there's a girl out there any Tuesday night who's a hard 8.9, and she's had just enough vodka after a bad day at work to be down to have sex that temporarily makes her feel just a little bit better about her empty career-focused life with anything that has a penis and a pulse. That gives all those 3.7 men out there some kind of hope that they just need to keep swiping long enough, then they'll get luckier and luckier, and they'll be with women they never had the courage to meet in a naturally occurring setting or approach in real life. So now men who would naturally be lower in the social hierarchy suddenly are rejecting women that would historically be considered way out of their league. Unsurprisingly, psychiatrists and psychologists think it's the overabundance of options provided by online dating, which may be making men less inclined to treat an individual woman as a priority. Wow, revolutionary, guys, really. You see, dating apps give people this false impression that there are just thousands of potential mates out there waiting to be discovered. So then you see this paradigmatic shift happening towards short-term dating mentality. Marriages become undesirable because they lock you down with just one person for the rest of your life. The horror, which leads to more divorce because suddenly people have FOMO, due to the possibility of being with someone like hotter or smarter or more successful. Infidelity has skyrocketed with the inception of dating apps. People now cheat anytime, anywhere. You can be secretly married with a kid and the person will have no idea. I mean, it's just one step removed from sliding in someone's DMs or inappropriately following accounts of people you have crushes on who are definitely not your wife. Dating apps don't just suck for singles, they suck for married people as well. I mean, why would men have to commit? They have endless options. This ocean is well stocked. Well, ladies and gentlemen, as my mother and grandmother always said when giving a dating advice, why would anyone buy the cow when they can get the milk for free? If our love for free handouts from the government shows us anything, it's that they wouldn't buy the cow. But they will take all the free milk that they can get. I mean, this is human nature. This is Lord of the Flies, Jekyll and Hyde. We inherently fall back into vice when virtue is merely made an option. There is also an active disembodiment of a person happening. Ah, theology, you have entered the chat. People are considered as if they have no soul or spirit, like emotions or thought, but are just meat popsicles coming in whatever flavor you want to order that night. There's no room for feelings, let alone deep emotional attachments. Like, it's actually a contest to see who cares less. Because the less you care, the more empowered you are, right? Feminism and all that liberal nonsense. It's not cool to care. You don't want to catch feelings. God forbid you actually have something emotionally like intimacy or care and affection for another person. The crazy thing is that we can scientifically literally measure the fact that the best sex has emotional intimacy and connection. We rationally know that the disembodiment and sexually meat popsicling of people is absolute lunacy. People are mind, body, and spirit. You can't separate one for temporary pleasure, even if you think they can, even if they think you can. Neither you nor they are Japanese sex robots. So many of you have lived their lives with so many regrets, and people feel used. They feel used up, and frankly, they should, because you are one complex and interconnected person. There's always a mental component, a neurological connection to the physical. The denial of this truth causes trauma. Measurable trauma. It's something Bessel van der Kolk talks about in his book, The Body Keeps a Score, which is one of this week's recommended readings. Trauma almost invariably involves not being seen. not being mirrored, not being taken into account. I mean, do you think you feel seen and taken into account by participating in casual sex, dating app fueled hookup culture? Or do you feel like a commodity, like an object? Like, do you think someone swiped right on you because they care about your soul or personality, or because you looked hot in that photo where you were barely wearing any clothing? Are you just a body? Are you just common interest in the right age and the right city? I mean, to diminish a complex human being into mere flesh in conjunction with such superficial algorithmic measurements is insane. It's also killing us. It's also making us poorer. Didn't see that one coming, did you? No, the latest research shows that dating apps are actually responsible for increased wealth inequality. What? How? Well, before you'd meet a nice guy or girl like at a bar on vacation and you'd fall in love with them and marry them, and their bank account and resume were not the first things you cared about or discovered. We cross pollinated socioeconomic classes with marriage and dating. Love became a ticket and marriage a door by which one could and did enter into different economic classes than you were born in. Whether that was intentional or unintentional, it all happened, right? It created social mobility, but now, well, now we either simply date within our own socioeconomic class, or we target, like intentionally identify and go after people of the opposite sex in order to marry or date someone with more money than us. This reduction of someone to their bank account number or what kind of car they drive is very real, and it is causing people to focus on money and materialism over love and meaningful relationships. I mean, it's transactional. Like, what can you buy me? Not how well can you love me? Do you see me, like really see me, or just do you see my Ferrari or that I own my house? It also breeds a certain level of distrust and need to maintain appearances, like keeping up with the Joneses, because your love has some artificial foundation to it based on an unpredictable asset. Financial ruin happens. Stock markets crash. Life happens. It's why traditional marriage vows say for richer or for poorer. Because if you aren't willing to be with someone when they have nothing, no material gain to offer you, then you probably shouldn't be with them at all. Trust me when I say that I'd rather be poor and happy and live humbly with the right person than have all the money or appearances of it in the world and be in a miserable, loveless relationship with my basic human needs not being met. Been there, done that, never again. The most valuable things in life are ones that money cannot buy. And going back to an earlier point, I almost wish I could say that this problem was like all about men out there just looking for someone hotter or younger than the girl they're currently with, like it used to be. The good old days. But it seems like the quality of the body doesn't even matter anymore, as long as you're down to do or let them do whatever they want to you whenever they want. And the women feel immensely pressured to have sex with the guys, because if they don't, then the men will just move on to the next girl who is willing to do whatever. Then they'll really have no chance of finding a boyfriend or relationship. And my point here is not to beat up and single out men like the sole perpetrators, because ladies, if you're talking to a man for 15 minutes before taking your clothes off, he isn't going to consider you seriously as a partner anyway. So it's a catch-22, right? Proving that human nature doesn't change. The men who were quoted in that Vanity Fair article said their biggest problem is that dating apps make getting girls too easy. Men are being challenged and therefore aren't taking you or dating seriously. I mean, you're literally serving yourself up on a silver platter to a morally homeless man. We are actively creating men who don't have to have any character in order to attain what they want. They can meet somebody and have sex in 20 minutes. One man in the article said he got all these girls' numbers by sending them emojis. But you know what he also said? That the girl who is willing to give him her number that easily is probably not the kind of girl he would ever want to marry. This is my surprise face. One of my favorite guys in the world recently said to me, "What is not earned is not cherished." Let that sink in, because that's human nature 101, always has been, always will be. So now this new trend is men saying they don't want to be in relationships because they just have the option not to be. They don't have to deal with all the relationship stuff. They want to be selfish and do what they want. Self-care, happiness of whatever. They're completely content having a good time with a societal sea full of sexually easy women going to work and hanging out with friends or whatever for emotional connection and relational intimacy. This boils down to the constant and unending availability of sex and partners that dating app provide us make men respect women less because women are too easy, while pressuring the women into being too easy. What's fascinating is that men think women are just as responsible for the death of old-fashioned dating and romance, and they are right. They talk about the girls being totally cool with like immediately having sex with them. And then they're confused about why the girls get upset when they don't want to have a relationship with them. The guys are like, how am I going to feel romantic about you when I just had sex with you and we met on Hinge like an hour ago? Their phones are full of nude photos from women known only by their first name and some like identifying attribute. Mandy, redhead from Phoenix. Jane, works at J. Crew. Laura, back tattoo. This is because women have bought into the lie that they do not have to value their bodies or sex as something precious or special. They were taught that feminist garbage, that the more sexually liberated they were with their bodies, the freer they were. F the patriarchy, remember? Let's go burn bras. If guys can casually sleep around and not have consequences, neither should women, right? Well, first of all, none of that is true. Men who are living that casual sex life have a lot of unspoken consequences, especially psychologically. But ladies, you want some scientific hard facts as to why you should get off that dating app merry-go-round and stop hooking up with randoms? Here's a fun one. According to multiple studies, women are twice as likely to orgasm in committed relationships than while having casual sex. Meanwhile, a growing majority of men now commonly lose their erections during hookup sex. Doesn't that sound like a fun time? The increase in sexual dysfunction in younger men is directly related to a lack of emotional intimacy and desensitization to sex because of porn or sex with strangers. We are seeing an epidemic in dating that is no different than the problem of porn. Well, before we had like limited availability and access to both, with technology in our pockets, like those barriers are wiped away. The insatiable human appetite for vice becomes just leashed upon humanity unchecked. There is no sacrifice and no accountability required. I mean, men and women are texting multiple people simultaneously, explicitly sexual things, well before they've ever met. That's just weird. Then they do meet in person and they just sort of like fake going through the motions, pretending to have a conversation over a drink like they don't know where this is heading. Drinking a little more than they should because the person isn't like quite as cute as they were in their pictures, so they need a little like alcoholic booster. But hey, I mean, it's better than being home alone with their feelings and like a good book on a Saturday night. Morons. For the record, I think that's like a lovely Saturday night. I don't know. I'm a weirdo. Back in normal times, dating was relegated to appropriate time periods in life with like appropriate time allotted to the entire process. There was cadence, there was rhythm, it was paced. Now there are no rules, no lines, no patience. Remember the old saying, patience is a virtue? Well, where is that virtue now? Not to mention, something even more intangible has been lost. The magic of romance. Romance, anyone remember that? Ring a bell? Yeah, it's a vague memory. I know. I mean, okay, like it might not be totally dead, but it's definitely on life support. What happened to mystery? And I don't even mean like the mystery of your body and keeping some things to the imagination. No, I'm talking about the mystery of possibility. The complete uncertainty of what's going to happen while getting dressed up on like a random weeknight and going out with your friend to a Taco Tuesday or a Saturday night basketball game. And there's someone else also there who just wanted a taco that Tuesday or who's also a basketball fan, or maybe you happen to pass them in the cheese aisle and something in your eye or smile or laugh caught their attention. And that made them wonder, I think that person's attractive. What's their story? Are they single? Maybe they want like a margarita with that taco. And the answer is yes, by the way. We always want a margarita with our taco. I mean, what are you, a communist? Love was a game of chance, right? It was random and sporadic and uncalculated. It was mysterious and uncertain. It was also frustrating and scary and uncontrollable, but the risk was worth it. It was fun. It was unexplainable, and there was excitement that teamed with the beauty of impossibility. You didn't know what was going to happen when you went to that house party. You had to have courage to offer that girl sitting next to you at the bar the tequila shot and then start talking to her about random passions or her obscure graduate degree. You know, and it was nice to just walk her home and just sweetly kiss her goodnight at the door. You weren't looking down at your phone, swiping and looking at nudes and missing the possibility of magic and romance all around you, of real human connection with someone who happened to sit next to you on a plane, a fully live human person right here that you can talk to in the flesh. Dating apps ruin dating the same way social media ruins social lives. I mean, the next time you're sitting in public, nail salon, coffee shop, airport, look around. Everyone is on their phones, not talking to the other human beings like right next to them. You want to know why we're so polarized as a society? Because we don't talk to each other anymore. We're too busy living these fake digital lives. Same goes for dating. And here's the really sick thing. This is all intentional because it's really good business. In one article that the New York Times actually pointed out the possibility that dating apps have intentionally gotten worse as have our romantic prospects, because the more they fail to help us form relationships, the more we're forced to just keep swiping and paying. As businesses, dating apps aren't doing that well. I mean, Bumble debuted at like $75 at their, per share for their IPO. Now they're below 7. User growth has fallen significantly. And so they're rolling out these premium plans. I mean, you can buy more views or likes or someone a digital rose for like $5, be a featured spotlight profile. At the end of 2023, Tinder released a $500 a month plan. $500 a month for Tinder. This is not about romance. This is about money. This is about cold hard cash. When you really think about it, how is it different from paying for a brothel membership or Pornhub subscription? It's like, for only $500 a month, you too can have sex with dumb and sexually easy college co-eds or countless strangers who don't value themselves or their bodies and are basically just sluts without a moral conscience because society has lied to them and who you have no real future with. And I'll probably get in trouble for slut shaming, but I don't care. Truth is truth. Deal with it. You know what's interesting is how similar dating apps are to another addictive vice, gambling. In fact, not too long ago, the Match Group that owns like Tinder, Hinge, Match.com, OkCupid, they were actually sued in like a class action lawsuit that said the company gamifies its platform to transform users into gamblers. They're like looking for psychological rewards, right? That remain elusive on purpose. The whole point is that they're designed to be deleted as if they really give a crap about finding true love. So it's like the opposite. Even the conservative dating app called The Right Stuff, it was founded by a guy who lost his security clearance at the White House because of a gambling problem. And then he designed a dating app. Are we seeing a pattern here? Side note, he's hilarious and a great follow on Instagram. The big takeaway is this. Dating app companies want you to continue playing in their expensive and addictive game of dopamine hit after dopamine hit, fueled by meaningless casual sex that slowly destroys your soul and actively decays our entire society, the future of marriage, and is heavily responsible for the population decline since children aren't usually intentionally created in non-committal, non-marriage relationships because it makes them money. People are not totally unaware of this. I mean, people aren't happy. Pew Research shows that over the last several years, there's been like this drastic increase in the percentage of dating app users across demographics who feel dissatisfied. Around half of all users report feeling somewhat to very negative about online dating. The highest rates coming from women and men who do not pay for premium features, the lower economic classes. I mean, women get inundated by all these messages while men barely get any unless they pay for these crazy subscriptions. The people who use dating apps experience significantly higher psychological distress, anxiety, and depression. The International Journal of Environmental Research and Public Health proved that there have been multiple links shown to exist between dating app users and the experience of loneliness, dissatisfaction with life, feeling excluded from the world. Social anxiety and symptoms of like depression have been linked to dating apps. I mean, those who use dating apps for hookup culture are often motivated by like sensation seeking and end up gravitating towards substance abuse. In 2023, a survey said that 47% of Americans feel stressed out about their love life. It's the single ones. I mean, 70% of Gen Z feels most stressed out compared to 57% of millennials, 49% of Gen X, and 27% of baby boomers. Gee, I wonder why. Oh, wait, baby boomers didn't really even have to deal with the crazy that is known as online dating. I mean, Gen X experienced it mostly as like a subset of older adults looking for marriage number 2 or 3 or like living that perennial Peter Pan lifestyle. Millennials, I mean, we had it thrust upon us against our will along with the inception of every social media app known to man. Gen Z is completely native to it. They know no world without it, sadly and unfortunately. It explains why they're so messed up in general. We are missing the nostalgia of romance and innocence and the purity of love and human connection. One thing the New York Times and I can agree on is that they admit we have commodified people and relationships and sex itself into some dark and twisted misunderstanding of humanity. This one paragraph stuck out to me. The author wrote, Our romantic lives are not products. They should not be subjected to monthly subscription fees, whether we're the ones paying or the ones people are paying for. Algorithmic torture may be happening everywhere, but the consequences of feeling like we are technologically restricted from finding the right partner are much heavier than, say, being duped into buying the wrong direct-to-consumer mattress. Dating apps treat people like commodities and encourage us to treat others the same. We are not online shopping. We are looking for people we may potentially spend our lives with. But is that even true? If you're on a dating app, are you looking for someone to potentially spend your life with? I doubt it, because according to a fairly recent poll, Singles in America, that the Harris Thought Leadership Practice did, a quarter of Americans said they weren't looking for a relationship, and 8 out of 10 Americans said they felt that you don't need to be married to be happy. That is 80% of single America. Where is this coming from? Well, we have all these experts telling everyone that the trend of getting married later in life is a good thing. Then they tell young men and women that, like, marrying and having children later gives you time to sow your wild oats and establish your career and form your own super special individual identity. You and your partner can come into the marriages as equals. F that. I'm a woman, all right? I don't want to be an equal. I want to be cherished. I want to be loved. I want to be provided for. I want to be thought of and planned for. I want security. I want protection. I want consistency. I want leadership. I want integrity. I want a man who I can trust with my life to take care of me and our children and whatever dog and other small pets I can convince him to let me buy. I want to be able to shut my brain off and just be a girl and let you take the lead. I want you to be the man, a real man. None of these feminists, soy boy, low testosterone, needy, selfish psychopaths who are only out for themselves and like meaningless temporary physical pleasure. These experts are selling a malicious and malignant lie, and sadly, most of you are buying it. A YouGov poll surveyed 1,000 Americans and found that 34% of people they polled described their ideal relationship as something other than complete monogamy, with men and women under 45 being more likely than their older counterparts to a non-monogamous relationships, like meaningless polyamorous garbage. The more the better. No wonder a study by the Pew Research Center found that 47% of Americans say dating was harder than it was 10 years ago. I can confirm this is true. And it begins with where our priorities have shifted as a culture. Are you ready for some weird statistics? Check this out. One survey revealed that nearly half of adults, 48%, think that mental health is more important than marriage, followed by 44% stating that physical health is more important than marriage, with 31% thinking that personal growth is more important than marriage, and then 25% thinking that being debt-free is more important than marriage. Marriage comes after all those. After going to a shrink, after going to the gym, after reading self-help books, after paying off that student loan, then marriage matters. Then marriage is, suddenly important. What on earth? Here's the truth. In the real material universe we live in, you will never be done with therapy. You will never be in the best physical possible shape of your life. You will never be done growing emotionally or learning as a person. And if you are the average American, the chances of you ever being completely debt-free are like slim to none but slim left town. I mean, unless you believe in like the Biden-Harris joke that is student loan debt forgiveness. You'll never be some perfect Uber man or woman who's finally in the right place or in the right mindset to be in an adult relationship or have a family. I mean, dear Lord, if our ancestors had put up these kind of barriers, we would all be dead. We would have never have existed. Humanity would have like extinguished itself out. Society is lying to us, putting all these impossible to quantify things ahead of something very easily quantifiable, prioritizing the intangible possibilities of an imaginary future over something real like partnership and marriage and a home with kids or commitment. Those things are real. Marriage licenses are real legal documents. A wedding is a real event. Children are real human people. Sleeping in a bed with another human is a real live action event. A future with someone requires things like, I don't know, having a plan, thinking ahead, and caring for someone more than yourself. Selflessness, not selfishness. But now we value ourself and our bodies and pleasure and feelings more than all the realness. We are paper people living in two-dimensional digital worlds, incapable of even realizing that we are mere cutouts rather than 3 or 4-dimensional creatures of living flesh and spirit. We are missing what it is to be fully human. That has become something nostalgic to even think about. I mean, there's this tangible yearning for like those olden days of romance before technology, the kind you see in old yearbook pictures or on these vintage Instagram accounts. Like movies like You've Got Mail or Sleepless in Seattle or When Harry Met Sally, all the pre-botched Meg Ryan movies. An essay titled A Time We Never Knew was published on After Babel by this 24-year-old girl named Freya India. I'm going to read a little bit to you. She says, there's a beautiful and melancholic world I like called anemoia. It means nostalgia for a time or place one has never known. This is a sentiment I often sense in my generation, Gen Z, especially in recent years. I see it on YouTube videos of old concerts that get millions of views. I see it in our fascination with Polaroids, vinyls, vintage cameras, and VHS tapes. And I see it in our gut reaction to gut-wrenching videos about how life has changed. But perhaps the best example is the popularity of 90s high school videos captioned, "Phones? No, we had each other." Most of us in Gen Z were given phones and tablets so early we barely remember life before that. Most of us never knew falling in love without swiping and subscription models. We never knew having a first kiss without having watched Pornhub first. We never knew flirting and romance before it became sending DMs or reacting to Snapchat stories with flame emojis. And the freedom, we never felt the freedom to grow up clumsily, to be young and dumb and make stupid mistakes without fear of it being posted online, or the freedom to be unavailable, to disconnect for a while without the pressure of read receipts and last active statuses. We never knew a childhood spent chasing experiences and risks and independence instead of chasing stupid likes on a screen. Never knew life without documenting, marketing, and obsessively analyzing it as we went. I think that's why Gen Z is moving away from dating apps. This feeling, the anxiety of a phone-based world, the loneliness, yes, but also the grief, the loss, the feeling of wanting to be free from the only world we've ever known. When we are grieving record stores, mixtape, old school romance, and friends goofing around in 90s high schools, what are we actually grieving? Delayed gratification, deeper connection, play and fun, risk and thrill, life with less obsessive self-scrutiny. Does it get more real than that? To sort of summarize, this first pass at sex, dating, and relationships. In modern dating, we see instant gratification in pursuit of easy sexual experiences as the replacement for long-term investment in relationships. You don't have to put in much of an effort to attain the physical body of another person to keep you company. Dating apps dehumanize us. They devolve us into lesser creatures. They commodify us in the worst possible ways. And we let them. We actually pay them to do it. They are making us depressed, anxious, lonely, are giving us endless, meaningless options. They are chipping away at the very core of what it is to be human. And we are losing the transcendent, almost mythical beauty of romance. They are making us shallow creatures pursuing pleasure and ease instead of seeking love and romance and something difficult but real and character forming. Human relationships are hard. Make no mistake. They require work. They require trust. That is why it is essential that the person you are attempting to have a relationship has integrity and character and virtue. Real relationships are hard, but they are worth it. They are worth the risk, the potential of rejection or pain, the fear, the vulnerability. This is what makes us courageous. This is what keeps our hearts soft with compassion and empathy. This is what it is to be human, to face uncertainty boldly and with excitement for the possibility of what could be, and to value what is earned, not as what given away for free. Dating should be in the pursuit of increasing your life, not just maintaining it. In short, everybody just stop swiping. Press delete, ladies. Stop being dumb, slutty flying fish. Have some respect for your sushi. Think more along the line of like very expensive omakase and less grocery store, freezer section, California roll. Men, stop taking home like whatever sea creatures just happened to jump on your boat that day and learn how to properly fish for some quality meat in the dating pool. Stop sleeping with all the fishes. Think more intense deep sea fishing and less man-created, well-stocked, catch and release trout pond. Because when that rare white whale of a woman finally does swim your way, you're going to want to know how to reel that baby in. And I can guarantee you that a hookup from a dating app is not the kind of hook that's going to land you that fish.